At the end of my video last year for the Luba 2, I was very positive on what it could do in my initial impressions, but every time we mowed, it got worse and worse. By the end of the year, it was stuck every single time it went out, multiple times, making the experience not fun at all. Well, this year we have the new Mammotion Luba 3, which introduces LiDAR, and the new Tri-Fusion navigation system, where it's using 3 different things to make sure it knows where it is, so you're not gonna have the problems with it going out of bounds and maybe getting stuck and not being able to move under trees and certain things like that. Well, in today's video, we're gonna be doing a full test on this, and guess what? We don't have to use the RTK. Well, at least I don't think we do. So we're gonna test it out that way at first, because there is now a new NetRTK that is available here in the US. It was already available in the Europe, so we're a little behind. Huge thank you to Mammotion for sponsoring this video. Let's get started. Mammotion sent over the Luba 3 3000, which covers 3/4 of an acre, but there's also the 5000, which covers 1.25 acres, or the 1500, which covers 0.37 acres. And then each model comes in a standard height at 1 inch to 2.7 inches, or a high version of 2.2 inches to 4 inches. So here there are a few things you need to add. Now it does come with an RTK that you can set up on the lawn, but there is also the iNavi system we'll be setting up today. Now here we're going to also pull out the base station. This is a bit bigger than we've seen before. And here we need to attach the little bumpers on the side as well as the bumper on the front. Make sure the sticker's on top, it's pushed firmly in, and then it is screwed in on top. It also comes with a screwdriver, security keys, extra blades, and a brush to keep it clean. A big benefit of LiDAR is there's only one plug for power. It has plenty of cord there. And if you are using the RTK, you can plug it in directly to the base station for power, or it comes with a separate power cord that you could use to mount this on the top of your roof, and a 3-pronged stake to attach to the ground. So what I need to do to connect to the NetRTK is go to the settings here. We're gonna go down to the RTK iNavi position. And then here we're going to change the positioning from antenna over data link to iNavi NetRTK. And here it's asking if we're going to connect over 4G or Wi-Fi. They say that with this model, you get 3 free years of 4G service. So let's go ahead and connect over 4G. And there you go. Instantly, it was successfully connected. So checking out that iNavi map here, you can see that Europe is fully covered. That was there last year, but now this year, there are a bunch of points that now we have access to the iNavi in the US, which is great. So not everywhere, but it's a wonderful start. When mapping, it recommends to keep the Luba 3 15 centimeters away, which is about as wide as my phone. Now that is a lot that you would have to trim at the end. So I'm gonna try in a few areas to go a little bit closer, and maybe around this trim line, keep it a little bit further away so we don't have the problem of it falling over. But now that we have the LiDAR with more accuracy, we shouldn't have that issue. Let's get the mapping done. So one of the big updates here is we now have an auto mapping, where it's just automatically going to drive around and find the area, or we can drive around. We'll try the auto mapping when we test out DropMow later. Now, if at any point it went the wrong way, I can hold down back, it will reverse, and I can redo that path. There I'm lined up to the edge, here we go. All right, I've made it back, so it gives me the option to add another lawn, but we're gonna stop right there for now. Here you can go in and mark no-go zones so that it doesn't go to a certain area, and then you can drive around those to specify where they are. You can add a fence, so there isn't a fence over here. I could add that if I wanted to here, so the robot will never go across that. You can also add obstacle-free zones, so if you never have obstacles, you can put that there so it's not going to try and avoid anything, and it will make sure it cuts the grass. And then here you can add different channels to go from one lawn or the other, and there we have our lawn. Now that is looking pretty accurate from what we have seen before. I'm gonna have it do a perimeter mow to see how well that worked without mapping the full yard first. Right here, I decided to keep that phone distance, but then I was like, that's so much extra we need to trim. Let's go ahead and get closer. So the rest of the time, I stayed this close. As it continued around here, you can kind of see exactly where I mapped, turning in a little bit, and here getting really close up to the edge. And I'm loving how this is working. You can tell that the LiDAR is very confident in where it mapped and where it needs to go. Now right here, I got very close to the edge. That's what I love, so that I really don't have to trim anything with my edger after. But we're gonna see what it does when it does the full mow so far. This is looking like it's not going to have a problem. It performed great around the border, so let's go ahead and map the rest of the area. I'll talk more about the different mapping options later. After completing the mapping and doing a perimeter test, it looks like it is ready to go. And here we're gonna start in the front area. And I'm gonna speed this up because when you have a robot lawnmower, it doesn't matter how long it takes. You don't have to do anything as long as it complete the task without failing and getting stuck. That saves you time. First up, you can see the nice straight lines that this is able to do. Now this is set a little higher speed, but it has a nice cut so far. So first let's talk about the LiDAR. This is a 360 degree, 59 degree LiDAR view. So it's able to see out 70 meters and then it's able to see up and down a little bit in case there's different objects or anything in front of it. So far this works great without having the RTK installed at the machine. It's just using the NetRTK over 4G and that is so far looks like it's working great. Now I don't think we have any spot where it's 70 meters away from any object, so it should be able to base where it is off the objects that are there, but the LiDAR is doing its job, making it so that it's a little more knowledgeable on where it is at any point when it was doing the job. And then here at the front, we also have the dual camera AI vision that we'll get into, where this has 10 TOPS AI chip to provide detailed stereoscopic vision of your yard so it can understand if there's anything in the way. Now, one interesting thing while we were doing the test here in the front, there was a point where it didn't get a little area and it saw a wrapper for a straw. And so it avoided that area. And eventually it did come back and mow that area. But I thought that was very interesting how even though it was super flat, it thought it was an object and avoided it. So I guess it's better for it to be safe than sorry. And here looking at the app, you can see where it has mowed in the light green and where it has to do in the dark green. And there you can see the little spot of the mist. And here is it going back to cover that area. It didn't have to go too far. It didn't wait till the very end. And then it continued on cutting those nice lines. I'm loving the pattern this is giving. All right, it's just about done. Just needs to finish the perimeter and this yard is looking amazing. And here as it goes around the perimeter, doing a very good job staying very close to the edge there, getting every part of the lawn, and just look at those lines. Love it. And here's the after of just one mow. Now you do have the option to do a checkerboard where you can have it go again the opposite direction and even align exactly how you want it to look, diamond shape, more checkerboard. But this is the finish I'm looking for with a robot mower. And now it's headed back to the charging station. You can have it follow the perimeter or just kind of go the quickest path back to the charger. I do want to note that usually it is following directly against the perimeter when it goes back, but here it's leaving some space, maybe to prevent it from getting stuck on that border. Found its way back to the charger and it almost high centered here, so I may need to raise up the charger, but it successfully docked. Start charging. Now it did a great job getting up right next to the edge. If only there was a way for it to trim that little final piece that's sticking up. Now on a normal mow, when doing both yards, it will just dock when it has low enough battery and it will come back out and finish the second. I manually started this though, and here it is doing a great job. The slowest part about this is when it's turning the corner. So you do have the 3-point turn, which we're doing now, or you could have the singular turn where it's just kind of rotating its tires and spinning. But here it's flawlessly executing the backyard. Now, one of the great things about this is the carpet-like finish that you get when it's going over this hill. Now, this is a tiny hill here, but one of the benefits of the Luba 3 is it is all-wheel drive, which means it can handle up to an 80% or a 38.6 degree slope. So it's going to be able to tackle yards. Now, if it is a little too muddy or something, it might get stuck, but it does have an adaptive suspension system. And then it has the Omni wheel at the front, which allows it to turn easily without having any of the wheels actually rotate. Speaking of dirt, here is an area that just does not have any grass. You can see the tires kind of spinning here, but it did not get stuck at all. I did find that when this patch was wet, it caused it to get a lot of mud on it, and then it did have more potential to get stuck, but it just dragged mud all over the yards. But I ended up creating a no-go zone. You can do this in two ways. You can just drive over the area, or you can just simply make a little box in the app to be able to not go in this area. So as the grass comes back, then I could remove those. But for now, I'm going to be skipping this area. So here's a look at the cutting depth. I currently have it set at high speed, so it's doing a nice cut. If I do this more regularly, 3 times a week, it's going to always be cut at that level. So it's only cutting a little bit every time it goes out. So over here, we are at the high speed on the blades and it was cutting at 2.3 speed. So that's how fast it was mowing. And then over here, I turned it down to maybe 1.5. So I can tell it's doing a little bit better. The wheels are pushing down the grass a little bit. So that's why you want to maybe sometimes do the cross section to make sure it's getting it all cut. But the grass was pretty long when we started. So the more often we do it, the more carpet-like it's going to be. It's now going to finish up the side yard here. Now the longer the stretch, so the quicker that area is going to be. And then once it completes, it's now going to do the perimeter of the lawn. And here you can see from this drone shot, it is perfectly aligning to exactly where I had mapped the yard. So you can get right up there next to the edge. I can very confidently say it's not going to go further than that. Hopefully that stays true for a long time. So here it does the first perimeter, then it's going to do a second perimeter just in a little bit, and then it heads back to recharge. And here is the final look of the lawn. This looks very nice just after one mow. Now I will say the cut isn't looking as finished as it could because we did it a little bit too fast and we didn't have the blade speed at high the whole time. But after a few more cuts, that will all come down where it's the same level. Now taking a look at the final mow, some of the biggest areas it missed were like the corner here. And then when we had this steep hill right up against this edge, right here, you can see that is longer than everywhere. It avoided that area. It could be because I mapped it. So if you are mapping that 15 centimeters, you're gonna have about that much around the border that you will need to go back and trim with your trimmer. But most other areas are looking very good right up against the edge. I think it did a great job handling that, and it did not get stuck at all. All right, let's go ahead and do an obstacle avoidance test. First with me walking in front of it, and there, as soon as I get in front, it slowed down, understanding that I was there, and it moved around. Now this is using the standard obstacle avoidance. Now one of the questions I'm asked often is, can it see dog droppings? Well, here we have a little fake one. Now again, it does have the bumper in case it bumps into something, but it's using the LiDAR to detect different objects. And then it has the vision, which can detect up to 300 different objects and be able to navigate and move around them. So with the LiDAR, if things are taller, it's going to easily see them, but with the vision, it's going to recognize those objects and be able to move around them. So there's your answer. No, you need to pick up the dog droppings. All right, coming up on the scooter and the ball here, there it slows down, sees the object. It's going to make a path to go around, and they're pretty close together, so it's got to decide on what it wants to do. Here it is turning around and going to go back the other way. It will finish doing that path. Once it can pass it, then most likely it will come around and finish this. And at that point, I'm then going to move the objects and it will come back and complete cutting those before it finishes the lawn. One of the things I noticed most about the Luba 3 compared to all the previous generations of Luba I've tried out is this one just seemed to know a lot more about where it was and where it was going. It wasn't slowly just kind of thinking about where it can go or if something was in the way, but it just went the direction it needed to go and cut the lawn. And I really think that is because of the LiDAR. LiDAR is able to see so much more than just the Vision OS or just an RTK, and it was able to go and get the job done. And again, I am not connected. There's no RTK plugged directly into here. I'm connected to iNavi. It's using the LiDAR and the Vision OS to be able to navigate where it is, and we've had no issues with that. That is awesome. This is what I want to see in a robot lawnmower. Now, my biggest question always is, how does it get up to the edge? I think it really just does what you map it. So I would love for it to know if it's getting close enough, but I don't think they are quite there yet. But overall, love that cut. So we're gonna try this out for a few days, get the rest of the lawn mowed. We gotta let it charge up, and then we'll be able to give more stats on, did it ever get stuck on this backyard trim where it usually does? But so far, first impressions, one mow, 0 times that I had to interact with it, and it did a great job. Before I finish mowing the rest of the lawn, let's go ahead and jump into the app and show you how to schedule and all the different features that you can adjust for each mow. So here in the app, you can see my different areas, and then you can see that virtual fence that I've made so the robot will never cross over. We're gonna go ahead and create a new task, and we're gonna select the areas. So let's go ahead and choose both areas. And then we're gonna go and choose the settings. So as you adjust things, you can come back here, see how long it's gonna take, how much area that is, and so on. And then you can also schedule the task. So we can go into the settings here. First, we have the cutting height. So here you can go down from 2.2 inches all the way up to 3.9 inches, and we just did that at 3 inches. Next, we have the mowing pattern. So we can just do the perimeter if that's all you want. We have the option to just do a single stripe. So here you can do optimal, you can have it do a random direction, or you can customize. And with customize, you can drag this and choose the angle at which it's going to go. And then here, if we choose the chest pattern, For the checkers pattern, you can choose both of these. So I can choose exactly how I want that diamond shape to look, or if I want to make it a perfect checkerboard, I have all those options. So that's all under the customize, or you can just see what it does by default. So I love having that. We're going to go ahead and just do the single one, and we're going to do the optimal this time. And that might help in mowing time. Next, we have the option to turn on the lawn perimeter. So it's going to do that border at the very end. You can have it do it 1 time, all the way up to 4 times. Let's go ahead and choose 2. You can turn on how many times it's going to do the perimeter around no-go zones. We don't have any trees or anything here, so we don't have any no-go zones, so I haven't turned that on. And then here we have the mowing sequence. So you can have it do the interior first, so the main lawn, or you can have it do the perimeter first. Sometimes it looks a little better if you do the interior first and then the perimeter, but just kind of preference on what you want there. And then you choose your obstacle avoidance. So if you have obstacles that might show up, you would want to turn that on. It's going to be a little more sensitive. So you'd want to turn this on if you have kids and other things in the neighborhood. If you're not worried about it bumping into anything, you can turn this off and it will just use the bumper. So if the bumper hits something, it will stop and go a different direction. This just makes it a little more cautious as it's going around different items. And then here we have the option to choose the mowing speed. So I was mowing that one at 3, so pretty quick. I could have even gone a little faster, but if you are not, time constraint, you could do it a little bit slower. It's gonna have a little bit nicer cut and will save you a little on the battery there. And then you can choose the cutting path spacing. So this is going to have the lines be a little closer together. So the minimum you can do is 7.9, or you can have it spaced all the way to 13.8 inches. It may look like it's missing a little bit, so I would definitely choose in here somewhere in the middle just to get the maximum area. And then here you can choose between a basic mode and an advanced. This is the advanced setting. So now that we have that, we're going to go back here, and now we can schedule when this is going to happen. So then we can set it to run every few days. Let's go ahead and choose that we're gonna run Saturday and Tuesday. And then we can choose the time, so you could have it run at night, or you can have it run in the morning. So there we could even set a 3 a.m. start time, save the task, and now that has been ready. When it comes winter, you can come in here and you can just turn that off, and now that's no longer going to run. Come in here, turn that back on, and we're ready to go. And you can rename this and copy it and adjust it and delete it, all that stuff. Now in the settings up at the top, there are all kinds of things that you can adjust. Down here, you can do some no working periods. Maybe your sprinklers go on. You can turn it on so that it never lines up with your sprinklers. You can adjust the route settings if you want it to do a direct route to the charger or follow the perimeter. Here you can change it from a 0 turn to a multi-point turn. Multi-point does take a little longer, I'd say, but it's not going to eat up your grass as much. Then you can adjust the blade speed. We were just on medium there. You can adjust the rain protection, turn off the wildlife safety. So if you live in an area where there are some wild animals, you can turn this on and it will then slow down the mowing speed, or it will just stop mowing and automatically dock if it detects animals and most likely that will happen at night. And then here you can adjust some battery charging. So if you want to change to a custom plan, you don't want the battery to get up as full to maybe prolong its life, you have all the settings for that in here. And then you can turn off the lights, you can turn off the auto lighting at night, adjust the voice, change your RTK, look at your map, go to satellite view, update the position of the charging location, and then you have the option to manually mow with it. So tons of features all in here. Just a few other cool features. So under the map settings, you can do a manual mow, you can mow where you're driving. Here you have the create, where you can add areas, channels, no-go zones, the virtual fence, an obstacle-free zone, or you can add a pattern. So you can actually choose one of these and it will not cut that specific area. So let's say I wanted to add a giant heart right here on the front. Harder to see when it's so big, but you have that option. You can even do a few different sports items and text, and so you can type out something. So the bigger they already have, the more that could work. And then just each time it mows, it doesn't mow that, so that you can see that pattern. And then you can edit where you can slightly adjust the border, going a little bit bigger or a little bit less to help little areas that you may be struggling with. And then you can do a live view while you're connected to Wi-Fi of the robot to see where it is, how it's doing out in the yard. Now that we have this set up, we are now ready to just let it mow. So it is now midnight when I scheduled this to go out, and it is mowing without any problem. Now, one of the cool things at night, well, you could see this during the day, but we're going to be using some night vision cameras to be able to see what that LiDAR looks like. Here from my cell phone, you can kind of see that little light, but if we go to my Nest camera here, it will actually show where that LiDAR is hitting. So if you look at the ground right in front of it, you can see all of these little dots. So that's the 59 degree of spread of LiDAR that it has to be able to see what's in front of it. Now looking at the bumper of the car here, you can also see the reflection of all those little tiny dots, being able to see at night without any lights or anything exactly where it is. And it can do this also during the day. Here's what the onboard camera is seeing. So clearly it can't see different obstacles, but there is an option in the app that you can turn on a light. And when you do that, you can have it mow with the light. This just helps others see that it's on your lawn and also improves the camera at night. So it can have better vision OS obstacle avoidance when it is working. And here you can clearly see that does improve it. You see a lot of grass and other things flying around. But if you do have different obstacles on your yard, this is a great option to turn on. We actually just want to have this off so that nobody really knows that it's working. It's very quiet at night, so you can barely even hear it. We don't want to bring any attention to it, so it's great that you can turn that off and it still works. We had success without ever needing the light on at night. It has now been a full week since we've been using the Luba 3 and it has done a great job here. You can see it's put in the work, pretty muddy over here, but the question is, did it perform well? So we've completed 3 full successful mows, and jumping into the app, it gives you some really cool stats. Here you can see that we've saved 6.5 hours. We have reduced our carbon by 4.8 pounds. It's covered 42,000 square feet, and it has completed 6 tasks. So the first day we completed 2 tasks, just checking to make sure it worked, and it worked great. Then I set up a schedule where it automatically is going to run 3 times a week, just so it has a little bit to mow each time, and it's gonna make the lines look nice. The first time it went out was right here. So it started at midnight, went out no problems, and here completed the 10.5 thousand square feet. The task duration was 3 hours and 33 minutes, and it had other 5 hours and 12 minutes. So the other includes the charging time. It also includes if it got stuck, and it also includes if like it rained and had to come back and wait for it to rain. And there it's showing how much power we used and so on. And here you can see our stats. So we are mowing at 2 FPS, so feet per second, 10.6 cutting path spacing, and the height is 3 inches. And we also currently have the blade speed set to high. As we were starting off, we just wanted to make sure it was getting everything cut, and we'll turn that down to medium going forward as we have everything cut now. And here we can see the task. So it started, it then paused, it went back to recharge, it continued to work, and then it paused. And here it's only showing it paused, but what happened there is it got stuck trying to go to the next area going over the path. Now I opened my phone and saw that, but it gave me the option to continue from the app, and it continued mowing. So it must have just slipped and stopped. It would have been nice if it tried a little bit harder to get over that path, but if that keeps happening, I will need to move the path. Pretty easy to do, but just there was a little lip that it got stuck on. It then continued mowing the front yard when I hit resume. It then paused, went back to recharge, and then it was able to continue to work to finish that. Now the cool thing is it didn't have to recharge to 100% to do the finished task. It knew that if it charged up to 40%, it would be able to then go and finish doing the mowing to then come back and finish the full charge. So that was great that it completed that task without any interaction with us. And then going back to what it finished today, here it did both areas. It finished the 10.5 thousand square feet, mowed 100%. Here we had the task duration of 3 hours and 42 minutes, but we had other of 6 hours and 1 minute. And what happened is that after it started about an hour into it, the rain sensor detected that it was raining. So it came back here, it docked, and then it waits in the app for you to manually start it, which we did. It would be nice if there was a time delay in the app that we could turn on. And it completed without getting stuck. So there you can see my stats, and you can see the same type of thing. Here it indicated that the rain was detected, and then when it went back out. So overall, it was able to complete the task. And I will say the final results look awesome. Just after a couple of days of doing this, we do have the pattern set on random, so it's going a different direction each time. But the final result, here you can see those lines in the grass. It looks so good. This is a house on a corner, so from every angle that you're looking at it, you can see these really nice lines. Overall, I love the final result that this gives to the lawn. And so going forward, it will always look like this. It will continue to complete the task. The next time, most likely there's not going to be the interaction with the rain or getting stuck on the path, and then we'll be able to have it complete its full tasks in one. But the good news is there was only the one interaction of clicking continue in the app. I didn't have to come out here and I didn't have to move the robot or anything like that. So that's a huge improvement from what we were seeing before. Let's go ahead and take a deeper look at maybe some of the areas that could be improved on or anything that it missed. Now first, let's take a look at how much trimming we need to do. As you can hear, so much trimming in the background, but we do have to do some on our lawn. Now, one of the ways to prevent it from happening here is I could go half on the grass, half on the sidewalk so that it cuts that and I don't have any trimming to do. It is a little bit difficult on this yard as the sidewalk and driveway is a little higher than the grass. So going up and down, sometimes the Luba just can't make that and gets a little stuck. So if your grass level is lined up properly, then you will be able to have it do the half on, half off. So right here next to the driveway might work, but over here that is going to be very difficult to really make a difference being half on, half off, and it's just gonna have more issues getting up over that ledge. And here going around the edge of the yard, you can see it did really good. Just this final last few inches that it wasn't able to get up to, you know, getting a little bit closer on the mapping could help, but we will need to trim around the yard. Now over here, I was able to do half on, half off because the grass is a little bit higher and there's gonna be no extra trimming to do. That's a nice finish. Now this is where it got stuck, trying to go over this little bit of concrete. Really surprised at that, but maybe the grass was just a little bit slippery. Wasn't able to quite make it over the ledge, but I was able to hit continue in the app and it continued on. So if that keeps happening, I would just move it down and find another path where it's not as much of a lip so it has an easier time getting across the sidewalk. And looking over to the border there, you can see the 2 times that it did go around, completing a nice cut all the way up to the line. When it's going back and forth, doesn't get quite up to the edge, so this is a great way to cover any missed areas. Now over the entire yard, this is the area that was missed the most, which is an acute angle, not being able to get right up there into the corner. Now it does do this kind of reverse thing here to be able to back up as best as it can, but there could be a little bit more done, maybe in a little algorithm change, or just being able to how we map. Again, the yard is too low to go half on the grass. That would also help if we're able to do that. And on the side of the little hill here, wasn't able to get up to the top. Hills are going to be best going straight on, not slanted like this, as it will kind of slide down. But the good news is it did not get caught over here at the corner of the lawn. And because we did have that muddy area, it did get quite dirty here, especially being out in the rain after getting in some dirt. So we'll need to wash this off every once in a while. Let's check out underneath. Now on the Luba 2, I saw there was a ton of scrapes here because it kept going over the edge, but we haven't had that happen one time. So far, no scratches. And there you can see on the blades here, there's not much grass caught on there, just a little bit. So this new blade design might be helping that. You do need to come in here every once in a while, make sure it's cleaned out, and then in the app, it will show you when it is time to replace the blades, and it does come with a few extra there and a kit to replace them. And over on this side, we do have a bunch of mud stuck in there, so definitely time for a good wash. And I do need to set the no-go zone on that muddy area. Now in the app, you do have the option to edit an existing map. So I can go in here, you can adjust the channels and everything. But if I click these 3 dots, it gives me the option to redraw a section. So here I can fine tune a little area. So I'm right where I want to be. I'm going to hit start. And I'm just going to draw it just a little bit closer and see if that does anything. So I'm manually controlling the robot to drive that border. And then once I'm done at the top, I just need to hit save, and it's then going to recalibrate this. And if you watch closely, you can actually see the map adjust to be a little bit closer. And let's go ahead and see if that made a difference. And by the looks of it, I definitely think it did, and I definitely heard it cutting some more grass. So that's really nice that you can fine tune how the border is right in the app. Now there is one more feature I'd like to try, which is called DropMow. This allows you to take the Luba 3, place it in a yard that is fenced in, hold down on the grass button, and it will automatically cut that lawn. No mapping required. Let's check that out. So I'm in a new yard with a fence in the background. So if we just go to the settings, we can go under beta features, and here it explains all about DropMow. So you do need to have it lit up. So during the day, this can be helpful for spots or neighbors' yards that need a quick mow. So once we have done all those things, we have 2 ways to start. One, we can hold down the grass button for 6 seconds, or we can just come in here and start mowing. And here it says the robot will start from its current orientation, ensure its path is safe. All right, here we go. That's so nice that I didn't have to make a map or anything. It's now just mowing. It looks like it's just using parameters I've set for other lawns. I didn't set the height or anything like that. So we'll just see how it goes. Here we have some obstacles. Oh, just missed it. Let's pick those up. So as it's going around, I can tell it's heavily relying on its vision to make sure it's not running into anything. Also using the LiDAR to kind of position where it is. It already has created a path. You can see the lines that it's doing here. So it's lining up on the yard, knows where it is. It's just trying to find the boundary and kind of what its limits are as it continues. Very interested to see the final result. And here you can see in the app, it's kind of created a new map for this area. It shows where I dropped it with the P, the parking spot. And here it's showing the map that it has created. So the light green is where it has done, and then the dark green is where it still has to go. Over here, that circle, that is where my trampoline is. So nice to see that is working. Now you can actually watch it build the map in real time. You can see it's just expanding as it gets closer to the edge. And then you also have the option to view the camera if you have the 4G connection, which we do here, which is pretty cool. But love seeing that it can build that. And then here it's keeping track of where it has mowed and where it needs to mow. I did find that in the app, you can adjust the speed as well as the path distance and the height of the mower. So when you're connected to it, you'll be able to do that. And now that it's finished mowing the area, it's going to do the final perimeter around the edge. Let's see how close it's able to follow along that. And here it's doing a pretty good job getting within an inch. Oh. Okay, a little too confident there. Maybe it saw the bush and thought that was part of the grass. Let's see how it does getting back. Oh, it successfully did it. I was going to say it was staying about an inch or two away until that little part messed it up. I like how it backed up into that corner to get it as best as it could. It's doing a second perimeter around the yard. I did test this on a smaller area in the front and it worked great. As long as your yard isn't connected to another yard, it should work pretty good. And there it completed the drop mow. It took about 50 minutes, but I think that's so cool that you can just take it somewhere, start it, it will mow the area and be done. Now, I don't necessarily believe you have to have it in a fenced area as long as it has different things to kind of see where it is and position itself. I don't think you'll have a problem there. It did a great job being able to mow the area and then doing the perimeter at the end. But now it just went back to the place where I started it at, and I need to take it back to the charger to get it charged back up. So after seeing the Luba 3 get to work, I'm very impressed by what this model can do. It's kind of hard because it looks the same as all the other ones, but with the LiDAR on top, this is a significant improvement to the entire Luba system. And then not needing to have an RTK antenna in the yard using the iNavi system and being able to have the vision as well is such a great improvement on how this works. It was so confident in all that it could do. I could tell it was running faster, being able to complete the job quicker, and it just knew and was more confident in what it was doing without having to wait and slow down and take a few seconds to do a certain turn or something like that. It just knew much better about its surroundings and what was happening and could go and get the job done. So I love not having the RTK that I set up. So yes, you can use this fully without the RTK. Again, this does have 4G in it and it is connected. You get that free for 3 years. And we had no issues with it running into any obstacles because of that Vision OS. So as long as they're tall enough, so any balls or anything that are left out from the kids, it should not run into them and you won't have to worry about obstacles and things like that in your yard. Now, if I were to make any improvements or adjustments to this, one thing is the notifications. A lot of times you're getting a notification that just says task paused. And it's like, well, why was that task paused? It would be nice if they gave more info, like task pause for rain, task pause because it's stuck. So if it gave just a little bit more details on those notifications, and if you could choose what type of notifications you're getting, that would be very helpful. And then just understanding exactly what it is doing. I would love to know if these are lining up to the border, if I could choose to say, hey, get as close as you can to the border without relying fully on the map. I wish there were some more details on that, but I don't really know if that's happening at all, or if that could be done, if that could improve the lawn just so we can get right up to the very edge of the lawn. I think all the robot mowers could certainly improve in that one. Now, as for the mapping, I didn't stay within the 15 centimeters. I got as close as I could that was reasonable, and we had no issues with it going over the border. So that's a huge improvement. Love seeing that. If I were to choose any Luba, I'm definitely gonna go with the Luba 3. This is the one to get. So if you have any further questions about my experience with the Luba 3 and the new LiDAR, please let me know know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.